Thank you for tuning in to Look Who's Talking Now. I'm Scott Kraft, and today we're going to continue our ongoing debate on teenage driving. We have two very special guests today. One is a West Norton police officer, and the other is a representative from Bluebell Driving School. We're going to be looking forward to their insight in the ongoing debate of teenage driving. And now to our first segment.
I think the driving age should stay at 16 because, it gives kids a chance to gain more responsibility and become more adult-like.
I like it the way it is. I think they should keep it at 16, That's a good age. That's maturity right there.
I could drive. I don't know about the other dudes, but I could drive.
It should be higher, less accidents,
It should stay how it is, 16, because drivers now who are teenagers, they try to get out of control and try to deal with their cars and stuff and try to show it off and speed, thinking it's cool or whatever when it's not.
I don't have a problem with student drivers as long as they drive cautiously and obey the rules.
Hello, I'm Scott, and today I'm here with Lieutenant McEwen from the Norristown Police Department. And today we're going to discuss our ongoing debate about teenage driving and the very interesting statistics that we have today. And let's just go over those statistics right now about teenage driving and how many deaths are being caused by driving with teenagers.
Well, this morning before I came in here to talk to you, I just saw a commercial from Allstate where it said that over 6,000 teenagers last year died in auto accidents. And that's
just mind-blowing, and they say the leading cause of deaths in teenagers is driving nowadays. So what do you think has caused all these deaths with the driving? What are these teens doing that's so differently from the rest of the older people in general and more mature people?
Well, maturity has a lot to do with it. First, you have 16-year-olds and 18-year-olds. If you look at 16-year-olds driving today, that they are three times more have a 3 times more chance of dying in an auto accident than an 18-year-old. Over 4,000 kids were killed in 2005 in auto accidents. What they're looking at, though, is 23% of those kids in 2005 were intoxicated, underage drinking. And then you have the cell phones. Over 56% of kids that were in auto accidents said they were talking on the phone. So that's something that really needs to be looked at. And not only are kids dying in auto accidents, but over 400,000 teenagers were hurt in 2005 in auto accidents. That's a big number.
So I personally don't think teenagers know the significance of once they get behind that wheel that they're putting their life in jeopardy and they could possibly die.
And what happens is the more kids that are in the car, the more your chance of being in an auto accident goes up. So if the more people in the car, the higher chance of being in an accident.
What could we do and the state lawmakers do to prevent such distractions and other things that could cause accidents with teenage drivers?
Well, there's a couple things that the lawmakers could do. Number one is raise the age of driving up to 18. They also could put a law that you can't talk on your cell phone in the car.
Yeah. I've recently seen many people talk on their cell phones. They have the music up, they have the people right sitting next to them trying to talk there on their cell phone and trying to do the radio all at once, and it's a disaster for them. They're not even paying attention to the road.
Big distraction.
Have you seen any incidents like this as a cop or a lieutenant?
Yes. I see it every day. I drive on the street every day. I see everybody talking on their cell phone, and it's a distraction. And not only for teens, but for adults also.
Yeah. So what programs do you think we can make that would make the teens more aware that they have to stay focused on the road and not get carried away with all these other distractions in the car?
I think in your driver education classes that you can talk about driving while under the influence of alcohol, talking on the cell phone, having other distractions inside the car. There are some of the things I would definitely touch on.
Teenagers nowadays, they don't really they don't take this at heart, all these education and all of the pamphlets they show about the statistics. They just think, it won't happen to me. I'll just keep driving the way I do, and I won't do any of this. But is there a point when we have to raise the driving age to 18? Are these statistics showing us that we have to raise it to 18 right now to prevent these deaths?
Well, it's definitely an indicator. I have a 17-year-old that goes to this school who is a senior, and he has his driver's license. Would I love to see it as a parent moved up to 18? Absolutely. But it is when you're 16, when I was 16, I wanted my license and couldn't wait to get my license and couldn't wait to go on a date and stuff. Driving my dad's car, it's like a rite of passage. But there's some times that we need to really take a good look at what's happening. When you have 6,000 of our teenagers going out every year and dying, that's time to take a real hard look at what's going on.
I believe so. Before we toss the debate back up to Randy and Julie, I'd like to once again thank Lieutenant McEwen for coming out and taking the time out of his day to come and share some very interesting statistics with us about teenage driving. And now to Randy and Julie.
I'm Randy Mulder, and I'm here with Julie Montleone. And we're going to be debating today about teen driving. We're here with Mark Moser and Bob Campbell. And we're just going to be talking about different issues with teen driving.
I think the biggest issue with teen driving would have to be the accidents that teens tend to get in.
You guys, they both work at Bluebell Driving School. Do you think that more teens get in accidents?
Well, we are the owners of Bluebell Driving School, and thank you all for having us. The statistics are pretty clear that the younger the driver, the more apt they are to get into whether it be a serious accident or a fender bender. Again, the statistics are clear that they do get in quite a few more accidents.
Okay. With insurance, is it higher, or is it? Do you know anything about the insurance?
Well, the insurance basically, of course, you would have to call and contact your insurance company. But usually for a younger driver, it is usually more expensive until you hit a certain age, and usually that age is 21 or 25.
Just because of the age?
Yes.
Okay. Crashes, it's more when you're between 15 and 20 years old. Is there more deaths from being younger too in the accident?
I think statistically speaking, yes.
Okay.
Well, it's a combination of a couple of things: the inexperience of the younger drivers, and also, speaking from experience, and also from seeing what goes on now. Kids have a tendency to load the cars up. Everybody wants to take a ride with the new driver of the week, and they load up the cars. And when things go wrong, not only are you talking about the driver of that vehicle, you also have a problem with more than one person in the car. So when the accidents do happen, there's more of a risk that more people will be injured than just the driver themselves.
Okay. Do you think going to the driving school, what do you offer at the driving school that could help?
Well, we've been in business now for about 8 years. We offer both behind the wheel and classroom instruction. The classroom is done in Plymouth Meeting, and they're fairly small groups between probably 6 and 20 students in the classroom at a time. It's a 30-hour program, and they're done either on weeknights, Monday and Wednesday nights from 6 to 9, and we also have Saturday classes that run. They're 5-hour classes, and they run for 6 weeks. And so that covers the classroom portion of it. And then we also offer behind the wheel. Behind the wheel is done in 2-hour increments, and you need a total of 6 hours, so that's 3 lessons total. Okay, that's all door-to-door service, individual instruction. Okay, we use our cars, which are have professionally installed equipment to help things.
On the streets.
Exactly. They help the instructor have complete control of the vehicle while the students take their time learning in a controlled environment and a comfortable environment. All of our instructors, whether they're classroom or behind the wheel, are all state certified. They've all gone through background checks, and they're all covered by.
Okay, so with the accidents, I guess if you go to a driving school, it could help, but the accidents are the biggest issue with teen driving. And here is some other people's opinions on teen driving.
Do you think your parents should be able to decide if you drive or not?
No.
Why not?
Because it's the child responsibility, it's the kid responsibility. If they want to drive, they want to drive. It shouldn't be on the parent.
Do you think that the driving age should be lowered or raised?
Lowered.
Why?
Because I want to get my license.
Okay.
I wouldn't like that because then I couldn't drive, and a lot of other kids couldn't drive, and they'd just be hanging around doing nothing.
I think the driving age is fine where it's at right now. So if we can just keep it at that age right now, I think we'll do pretty good.
As much as I'd hate to admit it, that probably is a good idea too, just because there's a lot of like immature people that are 16 awaiting their license. You know how it is. I don't know, they just like don't know what they're doing yet. And I feel like if they had to wait those extra years, and when you're 18, you're supposedly an adult, so then you should be able to handle the responsibilities of driving.
How do you feel if the driving age is moved to 18?
I think it would be unfair to the other kids that have their license already, or the kids that are about to get their license, because my little brother is soon to get his license next year. That'll be unfair to him because there's no one to take him anywhere he needs to be.
Do you think it should be mandatory for kids to get driving lessons?
Yes and no. Some states should, some states shouldn't. Like New York, you got a lot of drivers, a lot of hectic cars and everything. I think kids there should, take driving lessons to increase their driving skills. But out in like Nebraska or some more open space, it's not really necessary.
Well, when I was your age, I wanted it lowered, but now that I'm the parent of kids, I do like the idea that they extend it to at least waiting for the 6 months after they're 16.
Okay, we're back. Another issue, like parents have a lot to do with the driving too. Does your mom complain about driving you places?
My mom complains about driving places, but I think she'd rather drive me places than have me get in an accident and get hurt from me driving myself.
Okay. Are you a parent?
I am, yes.
Do you get sick of driving your children, or when they're younger, wouldn't you rather?
I did.
So,
I did, yes.
Okay, so them driving takes that away from you, and you don't have to drive them everywhere.
True. One thing about the parents is the parents are kind of nervous about whether the kids have the ability, okay, or the proper sense to drive. When we teach kids how to drive, we have to pick up their, they have to be very, what's the word I'm looking for, Mark?
They need to understand at what point they're starting from, so we can be
Right.
most helpful to them.
They just have to be ready to drive, and the parents, their problem is they have to convince their parents that they're ready to drive. Okay.
Maturity, I guess.
Maturity, yeah, the maturity. When you take them to the test, your level has to be at a certain height. Okay.
Mhm.
They're asking you to do 50 hours behind the wheel. Now, of course, we're only going to do probably 6 or 10 or 12 or maybe 20, and the parents are responsible in between there to give them some more time behind the wheel. And they just have to, it just has to work where the parents are more as confident in them as they are in themselves. Their confidence level has to be high.
So you think with the driving age being 16, that if the parents are fine, the parents can offer things like curfew or like how far they can go, how many passengers. Do you think that would help
Absolutely.
the accidents?
Absolutely.
Well, those things are all mandated by law for drivers under 16. For people that get their permits under 16, there is a 50-hour mandatory driving time that Bob was talking about before you can go and get your license. There is also a limitation, only the amount of seatbelts that are in a car can somebody drive while they have their permit. And Curfews are mandated as well. Kids can only drive between the hours of after 5 a.m. up until 11 p.m. And they risk, some serious fines. The parents obviously absolutely need to enforce that. Again, something about the parents. The kids can't do any of this stuff without authorization from their parents. They do need to have the parent's signature to both apply for the permit application itself, and they also need to get the signature of a parent before they can take their driver's license test. The parents have to sign off on the fact that the children did the 50 hours behind the wheel and drove 6 months under all different adverse and regular conditions. Exactly right.
Okay. I think that if the parents modeled good behavior, that, if the parents said, okay, if they were driving safely, because sometimes if your parents are in a rush somewhere, you might, when you start driving, you might say, oh, I only have 5 minutes to get to school, let me drive faster.
Or inherit road rage.
Yeah. Do you think that changing it to 18 would help or hinder drivers, because then they would have less experience? Because if you start when you're 16, you have more experience to know how to drive than when you're 18. Do you think the maturity level really is that much higher between 2 years?
There is a difference in maturity level. I don't think it's going to help any to raise it to 18. I think the restriction should be on the students and the parents. As Mark was saying, you have to have the parents get involved a lot more. I think what's going to happen is they're probably going to restrict how many passengers you're going to have in the car. If you get your license at 16 and a half, which is the earliest you can get it, there might be a restriction for the first 3 months of having one person in the car. Okay, there might be restrictions as to what time you can drive and things like that. But I don't think they're going to change the driving age to 18, because I think believe it or not, I think it's going to inconvenience a lot of people.
The parents. I know my mom every day.
Yeah. And again, the students are more mature at 18. Okay, but you can say that about some 16 and 17-year-olds, and some 19-year-olds aren't mature enough to drive.
Yeah, okay, or you won't get the experience if you don't, when you're 18, you're going to be going to college and everything. When are you going to get the time to actually sit and drive and actually get the practice of it?
Well, a couple of years ago was when they instituted, not a couple, it was about 10 years ago when they instituted the 16 and 6 months and 50 hours. That's when they last discussed, I guess, raising it to 18, and they said, well, let's do it this way. Make sure they have their 50 hours. So
okay. So when the parents have to enforce the rules, and there's some more people that we've talked to, and we're going to see what they have to say.
I wouldn't really care that much since I already have my license, but I guess I'd feel bad for the younger kids who don't get to get their license the same time that I did.
I feel the driving age is just about right, but I think the permit age should be lower. They should not raise the driving age because we need to learn how to drive sooner or later. It may as well be sooner.
I think it's very reasonable that it's 16, in my opinion. 16-year-olds they don't understand the awesome